Mr. Trump has a question about immigration. Your immigration plan.
Okay, who's next? Yeah, please.
Mr. Trump, I have a question.
Excuse me, sit down. You weren't called. Sit down.
No,
sit down.
No, I'm
sit down.
an immigrant.
Go ahead.
I have the right to ask the question.
No, you don't. You haven't been called.
I have the right to ask the question.
Go back to Univision.
No, this is the question.
Go ahead.
Donald Trump is not used to anybody interrupting him. George Ramos saw himself as a talk show host needing to make a political statement. And we have another racially charged tempest ripping across the political landscape. It's also another insight into the man who would be your leader and still doesn't give a damn what you think because he knows he's right. Our first guest is adjunct professor at the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, also author of the book Donald Trump, Master Apprentice, Gwenda Blair, joined by reporter and contributor for the Media Research Center, Dan Joseph. I want to thank you both for being here because we got a lot to talk about with the Donald here. Gwenda, let me begin with you. First of all, with regard to Donald Trump, you've interviewed him many times. You've written the books about him, his family, his dad. What you see right now and what we're seeing here as he runs for president, is that the real Trump or is it a put on, a show? How can you tell the difference?
This is a guy who's always been about winning and losing. He's a winner. Everybody else is a loser. This is the playbook he's been using since he first burst into Manhattan in the mid-'70s. It's the same playbook he has now.
But has he always been this arrogant in public and this forceful going forward? Because let's be honest, we'll start with a lot of different things here. We could go on for hours. But more recently, for instance, when the tweet comes out about Megyn Kelly, somebody calls her a bimbo, and then he retweets it. It's just not something you would think somebody with common sense would do if they're running for political office. I don't want to say he doesn't have common sense, but he maybe has more arrogance than anybody else, knowing he can get away with it.
He made his fortune by branding, by making himself into a celebrity brand that was too big to fail when he had to deal with corporate bankruptcies 4 times. He's too big to ignore now in the political realm, and he's too big. And he's really good at listening to audiences, listening to his listeners, figuring out who they are. His listeners now are that big swath of people who were angry, resentful, feel like they don't get respect. And he's showing that he's going to use all that strength of that brand, that juggernaut brand, by rolling over anybody who is in the way. And it doesn't matter who they are. They could be politicians, they can be women, they can be John McCain. Doesn't matter. Immigrants, doesn't matter. Hedge fund, people in hedge funds, doesn't matter. He's on the side of that big swath he sees in the middle that's angry and looking for somebody who's a champion and who's going to be really strong.
All right. So, Dan, there's a good way to go ahead and bring you into this now with regard to George Ramos, because he calls himself a journalist. He says, I'm there to ask questions. That's our job as journalists. Dan, let's look at this honestly. As somebody who's been in this business his entire life, I look at that. He was wrong. He was there to make a political statement. He wasn't asking questions. And quite frankly, I think that kicking him out was exactly the right thing to do from a journalist standpoint, because that's not the time and place to do it. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think it was a very, very interesting and telling exchange on both sides. I think that, first of all, you do not interrupt somebody while they're giving a speech. I don't care if you're a journalist. If somebody doesn't call on you, you don't just stand up and start speaking your mind. Second of all, Ramos likes to pose as a journalist, but and you could say sometimes he behaves like one, but he's actually an activist. He's an immigration activist, and that's a very, very tricky line to walk. In this situation, I actually thought that at first, Trump did not handle it very well. He came off as being dismissive.
He came off as being very angry, and again, I hate to use that word again, but he was very arrogant, where he basically said, sit down. I mean, that's the thing I think that catches people.
He used the term univision, which I think is probably not going to endear him to any more Hispanics. But after that happened, he actually let him back in. And they actually did have a 5-minute discussion, and he answered some of Ramos's questions. He did so in a very respectful manner. I thought in the end, Donald Trump actually ended up making himself look good in that situation and handling it. At first, he sort of tripped up, but I think in the end, he realized what he had done, which is rare for him, and he brought it back and ended up looking okay.
Well, you mentioned Latinos, too. And, Gwenda, I want you to think about this because I'm going to ask you in a moment, but I want to stay with Dan on this. Because in USA Today today, Raul Reyes writes a commentary which says Trump demeans Latinos again, part 84, basically saying you did it against the Latinos. You're taking this out because it's a racist thing. I got to be, again, Dan, I got to be frank here. I don't see this as a racist issue here. This looks like a guy who basically, a Donald Trump, whom you expect this from, shutting somebody down who won't shut up. What do you think about those who are now calling this another racist slap at Latinos?
Well, that's what you expect from people who are going to play that kind of card, particularly from the liberals in the media. I don't, regardless of my own thoughts on Donald Trump, my personal thoughts, I take issue when anybody refers to him and his statements and his ideas as racist or xenophobic. I don't believe that's where it's coming from, and there's no evidence to suggest that it is. But again, you're going to have to expect this, and it's working on Trump. He is massively unpopular right now with the Hispanic population in the United States. It's the same way that Democrats have been playing the race card for years and the war on women card for years, and it works. So in the end, this negative 51% with Latino voters may make him completely unelectable in the end.
Gwenda, let me turn to you then with regard to this very issue here, because it has now been brought up again in the column, the discourse between he and Ramos. In the times that you've interviewed Donald Trump, family, whatever, have you seen any evidence that he is a racist or a xenophobe?
When I talked to Donald a number of times, a number of different circumstances, when I talked to members of his family, they were uniformly courteous, civil, polite, and very generous with their time. But I think what's going on here, really, it's what I said before. He's looking at his audience is angry, he's showing he's going to be on their side, and no better way to show that than to be very strong-minded against anybody who seems to get in the way.
Is this an act, quite frankly, that we're seeing at this moment, or do you think this is the real Donald? I mean, it does seem like at times that we're watching another reality show.
I think it's the real Donald. That's his MO. He's a winner. He's going to make people who are against his supporters, or he's going to give his supporters somebody to be against, let me put it that way. And he's going to tap into that. He's going to make those others losers. He's going to show he's strong. He's not going to back down. If he gets any kind of feedback, if he gets any kind of pushback, he's going to double down. And that's what he was doing.
Well, he doubles down, and he doubles down, and he gets away with it, quite frankly. Go ahead, Dan.
Elections are the ultimate reality show when you think about it. If you think back to President Obama's first election in 2008, it's just like a huge nationwide reality show. You have the candidates, they perform, then the American people vote like it's American Idol. It should be no surprise to anyone that Donald Trump is flourishing in this type of environment because this is what he's used to.
Is it fair to say, Dan, that right now, as we look at all these candidates, nobody understands how to play the media better than Donald Trump?
Yes, I think that's true, but at the same time, if you are a presidential candidate, I don't care who you are, and you say the types of things that he says, not that everybody could get away with it, but yes, of course the media is going to pay attention. I mean, I think people on both sides are tuning in every day just to find out what Donald Trump is going to say next. What crazy, provocative thing is he going to say? Now, I don't know how long that strategy can last for Donald Trump. Eventually, there may be something that breaks the camel's back, but his supporters are so devoted to the man that at this point in the primary process, I can't imagine what he could possibly say that would turn them away from him.
Gwenda, I got 20 seconds left. You know the Trumps pretty well. You've been close to him. Do you think we are looking at the next president of the United States?
He's been a category crusher in everything that he's attempted. So the presidency could be, what we make of that, whether somebody who's a tremendous global brand, is that the key to America regaining its place in the world?
There it all is. That whether it is still the question we're going to ask. Gwenda Blair, Dan Joseph, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll do it again. Stay with us. The Hard Line, the fastest 60 minutes in news, continues.